A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News for TV1 for the Newsfirst team. I'm Stephen Nishanda.
And I'm Piruni Karnaratna. Here are tonight's top stories.
The headlines on Newsfirst.
Suspect driver remanded over fatal Megoda accident killing 6. Police call Megoda crash intentional killing.
ආයතනයේ ඇඟේ වදිද්දීම නවත්ත ගන්න තිබ්බා. මේක චේතනානිතව මාරක බරපතල මහා ඛේදනීය මිනිවරුන් හැටියට සැලකලා පොලිසිය විමර්ශන පවත්වනවා.
24 killed in road accidents across Sri Lanka during the past 2 days. Global oil prices rise again amid market uncertainty and tensions. Fuel prices increase to ensure continuous supply, says Energy Minister. Sirasa Namami Vesak Zone concludes sacred relic veneration amid massive crowds. 5 forests in Anuradhapura to be declared protected reserves to safeguard Lanka systems.
On to your top story tonight. The Supreme Court has overturned a High Court ruling paving the way for charges under the Public Property Act to proceed in Sri Lanka's long-running central bank treasury bond scandal.
The Supreme Court today set aside a previous order issued by the Colombo High Court Trial at Bar, which had ruled that charges filed under the Public Property Act could not be maintained against the accused in the 2016 central bank bond issuance case. The case relates to allegations that government funds were misused during a bond issuance carried out by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka in March 2016. The Attorney General had filed indictments against a group of defendants, including Perpetual Treasuries Limited, former Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran, and former Finance Minister Ravi Karunanayake, among others. The Colombo High Court Trial at Bar had earlier determined that charges under the Public Property Act could not be sustained against the accused. However, following an appeal filed by the Attorney General, the Supreme Court has now overturned that decision. The ruling was delivered by Supreme Court Judge Mahinda Samayawardena with the concurrence of Chief Justice Pritipadman Surasena and Justices Shiran Gunaratna, Achala Wengapuli and Arjuna Obesekara. In its decision, the Supreme Court held that the charges filed under the Public Property Act could indeed be lawfully maintained against the defendants, including Perpetual Treasuries Limited. The court further directed that the case be expedited and heard without delay.
The suspect driver linked to the devastating road accident in Megoda that claimed 6 lives has been remanded until the 16th of June after being produced before the Homagama Magistrates Court.
Now, Sri Lanka police have said that the incident amounts to an international killing and that he will be charged under criminal charges of the Penal Code, in addition to a number of other charges.
The fatal incident occurred last night when a cab veered into a group of people gathered at a roadside dansala in the Megoda area, resulting in the deaths of 6 individuals. Another 7 individuals sustained injuries in the crash. The suspect driver, who fled the scene immediately after the incident, was arrested following a police chase. He was apprehended by a team of officers who tracked him down, with the arrest made by personnel stationed in the Godagama area. Police investigations revealed that the 42-year-old driver was under the influence of alcohol at the time of the incident. The cab involved in the crash has since been taken into police custody. The tragedy unfolded near the Batte-Gedera-Mulla junction along the Colombo-Avisavela main road, where a group of people had been standing in line at a roti dansala. The speeding cab crashed directly into the queue, killing 6 individuals on the spot. Among the deceased were a 15-year-old schoolgirl, 2 women and 3 men. All the victims were members of 2 families. The victims have been identified as 56-year-old PB Indrani, a resident of Vavala Piliandala, her daughter 35-year-old Navisha Nilaksha, and Nilaksha's husband 38-year-old Lasika Priyankara, who served as an army officer. Also among the victims was their relative, 15-year-old Malisha Satrani, a grade 10 student at Anand Samarakon Vidyalaya in Piliandala, who tragically lost her life in the incident. The remaining two victims were brothers from the Tunnana area of Padukka. The bodies of the deceased have been placed at the Homagama Base Hospital morgue, with the magisterial inquest into the deaths scheduled to be conducted today. Meanwhile, the 7 individuals injured in the crash are currently receiving medical treatment at the Homagama Hospital.
Yeah, we did experience a very unfortunate incident last evening. The reason was, due to this fatal accident, 6 lives. There were 6 lives, and also currently there are 7 people who are currently injured at the Homagama hospital. So these 7 lives who left us were very innocent, and they were at a ceremony during the Vesak festival. Now the Sri Lanka police will not tolerate all these things right now. The Inspector General Police have taken very stern attention on this, and from today onwards, almost every police area will commence with a traffic operation. The incident took at Migoda. The driver was arrested. He was a 42-year-old driver who was arrested, and he will be charged under criminal charges of the penal code of this country. So therefore, he'll be charged for dangerous driving, reckless driving, driving under the influence of liquor, and the criminal charges for murder and attempted murder. So therefore, we would wish to direct the drivers, the motorists, the motorbike riders, and the trishaw drivers also. We will take very stern action for those who will not abide by the rules and regulations of the country. And the Migoda incident, the owner of the driver also will be taken into custody, who is currently evading arrest, and he'll be taken into custody with immediate effect, and also he'll be also dealt under the aiding and abetting on criminal charges, who was leveled, the charges leveled against the driver itself.
A total of 19 road accidents were reported during just 2 Vesak days, resulting in 24 deaths.
මේ දවස් දෙකේදී වෙච්ච මාර්ග යනතුරු 19ක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. එයින් 24ක් මේ ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. මේ දවස් දෙකට බරපතල අනතුරු 26ක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. සුළු අනතුරු 96ක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. අලාභ අනතුරු 19ක් වෙලා තියෙනවා. පදිකෙන් 13ක් මේ ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. යතුරුපැදිකරුවන් 7ක් මේ ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. පසුපැදිකරුවන් එක්කෙනෙක් මේ ගිහිල්ලා තියෙනවා. පාපැදිකරුවන් එක්කෙනෙක්, රියදුරන් එක්කෙනෙක්, මගින් එක්කෙනෙක් වශයෙන් 24 දෙනෙක් මිය ගියේ ඒ ආකාරයට.
With power, precision and undeniable promise, Sri Lanka's rising javelin star Rumesh Tharanga announced himself on the global stage in a spectacular fashion.
Yes, Theruni, now to tell us more about this world-class performance, we now toss over to Onelka Amaratunga. Onelka?
Yes, thank you, Steven and Theruni. Now on to your latest sports update. Sri Lanka's javelin star Rumesh Tharanga made a stunning debut on the world stage, competing for the first time in the prestigious Diamond League Athletics Series in Morocco yesterday. In his very first appearance at the elite level competition, Tharanga delivered an outstanding performance to secure second place in the men's javelin throw event, marking a historic milestone for Sri Lankan athletics.
The Morocco leg of the Diamond League, which saw Tharanga register an impressive throw of 85.97 meters, showcasing his growing dominance and the discipline. Notably, he also becomes the Sri Lankan athlete to achieve the best ever performance in a Diamond League event, further cementing his place among the country's top track and field stars. Based on his performance so far this year, Tharanga continues to hold a leading position in the senior men's javelin rankings, signaling his consistency and rising stature on the global stage. The event was won by former world champion Anderson Peters of Grenada, while Kershaw Walcott of Trinidad and Tobago finished in third place.
On to more local news now. The government says fuel prices were increased to ensure an uninterrupted supply. Minister of Energy Anura Karunatilaka provided a detailed explanation this morning at a media briefing regarding the recent increase in fuel prices in Sri Lanka.
Why were fuel prices increased? Minister of Energy Anura Karunatilaka stated that since February, global market prices have risen sharply. He noted that octane 92 petrol prices have increased by 80%, while diesel prices have risen by 79.81% in the international market. Under such conditions, the minister emphasized that selling fuel below cost would quickly lead to a breakdown in supply.
If the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation and other suppliers are forced to continue operating at a loss, we will face a serious challenge. This creates a risk of a collapse in fuel supply within the market. The current situation we face is that even with the price increase, we are still able to ensure an uninterrupted fuel supply. However, if we do not take this step and fail to increase prices, maintaining that uninterrupted supply will not be possible and the fuel market could collapse.
ඉන්ධන සැපයුම කියන එක තවදුරටත් කරන්න බැලුව මේක ඉන්ධන වෙළඳ පොළ කඩා වැටෙන තත්ත්වයක් එනවා.
What is the minister's response to claims that Sri Lanka is increasing fuel prices while other countries are reducing them?
පිලිපීනය ගත්තොත් 72.5ක මිල වැඩිවීමක්.
If we take the Philippines, they have increased prices by 72.5%. In Nepal, it is 36.2%. In Myanmar, it is 89.1%. In the USA, it is 42.1% for petrol. For diesel, the increases in many countries are even higher, 43.4% in Pakistan. There is talk about Pakistan recently reducing prices, but they had earlier increased them by more than 58% before reducing them to around 44%. In Myanmar, diesel has increased by 80.9%, and in Singapore, diesel prices have gone up by 61.4%. However, in Sri Lanka, over the past few months, petrol 95 has increased by 45.59, petrol 92 by 48.12, diesel by 44.84, and super diesel by 45.29. When you compare this, it is clear that our increases are still at a lower percentage compared to many other countries. One key reason for this is that the government has absorbed a significant portion of the global price increase through the treasury during this crisis.
ලෝකයේ මිල වැඩිවීමේ සැලකිය යුතු ප්‍රතිශතයක් රජය විසින් මහා භාණ්ඩාගාරය හරහා දරන එක.
Will the current QR-based fuel distribution system be changed in the future?
ඉදිරියේදී අපි දැනට ක්‍රියාත්මක කරගෙන යන QR ක්‍රමය.
In the future, we intend to implement the existing QR system more strictly. Through this, we aim to reduce fuel consumption during this challenging period and thereby ease the impact on the economy. If we do not manage it this way, there is a possibility that in the end, even essential users such as three-wheeler drivers may not be able to find fuel in the market. Therefore, although this situation may create some level of pressure and shock, a portion of that burden must be shared by consumers, while the government bears the majority of it and a part is also absorbed by fuel suppliers. That is the policy approach we are following to manage this situation.
ඉන්ධන සැපයුම් කරන ඒ සමාගම් වෙත යොදමින් මේ අවස්ථාවට මුහුණ දෙන එක තමයි රජයේ ප්‍රතිපත්ති හැටියට අපි කටයුතු කරන්නේ.
Transport unions say bus fares must be revised in line with the recent increase in fuel prices.
We are asking the government for one thing only, a fare revision that reflects the increased fuel costs. According to the national policy, a regular bus fare revision is due in July. However, that is not what we are requesting at this time. We ask for an interim bus fare increase of around 5%. Based on the recent fuel price hike of 25 rupees per litre. If this 5% fare increase is not granted, private bus operators across the country will be compelled to suspend services possibly as early as Thursday this week. Therefore, as an alternative, we suggest that the government provide a fuel subsidy for buses through the existing QR-based fuel distribution system. If such a fuel subsidy is provided, there will be no need for a bus fare increase.
අපිට බස් ගාස්තු වැඩිවීමක් අවශ්‍ය නැහැ එතකොට.
Amid uncertainties surrounding a potential Iran-United States ceasefire agreement, global crude oil prices rose again today in international markets.
It is reported that crude oil prices in the global market have increased by approximately 2%. We now cross over to Jaimal Ratnayaka for more on this story.
Thank you very much, guys, and a very good evening to you and to everyone joining in as well. As you mentioned, the cost of energy shot up considerably as a result of the attacks by the US and Israel on Iran since the 28th of February 2026. And today, International media reported that the rise in oil prices was driven by moves by former President Donald Trump, or rather President Donald Trump, to tighten conditions related to a proposed 60-day ceasefire agreement with Iran. Here is a look at the latest figures concerning oil prices. The price of a barrel of crude oil in the US WTI market was recorded at $90.97, marking an increase of 4.24%. Meanwhile, in the British Brent market, the price of a barrel of crude oil stood at $94.33, reflecting an increase of 3.52%. Since late February, amid escalating tensions in the Middle East, disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz have at several points pushed global crude oil prices beyond the $100 mark. Foreign media also reported that global oil reserves are now rapidly nearing critically low levels. With the Strait of Hormuz continuing to face significant disruptions, any delay in diplomatic negotiations is expected to have a severe impact on global supply chain. For developing nations heavily dependent on energy imports, continued disruptions to shipping routes in the Persian Gulf region are driving up both fuel and fertilizer costs. According to international reports, the next 48 hours are considered highly critical for global energy security and international diplomacy. Take a look at more news from the international arena. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has reiterated that the ceasefire between Tehran and Washington is quote-unquote unequivocally a ceasefire on all fronts, including in Lebanon. Taking to X, Araghchi wrote, and I quote, "If a violation of one front is a violation of the ceasefire on all fronts, the US and Israel are responsible for the consequences of any violation." The country's top diplomat's comments come after Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's prime minister, announced that he had ordered his military to strike Beirut's southern suburbs.
Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps said that it targeted a base used by the US to strike Iranian territory in retaliation for the US self-defense operations. The attacks came after the US military carried out self-defense strikes on 2 Iranian drone command sites in the Strait of Hormuz over the weekend. Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard confirmed the attack on a telecommunications tower on Sirik Island in Hormuz province and said the IRGC Aerospace Force launched retaliatory attacks on the airbase used to launch the attacks. It did not provide details on the base location. The IRGC added that if the assault is repeated, the response will be completely different and the responsibility lies with the US. Meanwhile, Kuwait Army said in a post on X published on Monday that it was currently responding to hostile missile and drone threats. French President Emmanuel Macron says he held a phone call with US President Donald Trump last night, in which the French leader said he commended his US counterpart for his determined efforts to reach a swift agreement between the United States and Iran. Macron said he indicated that France was ready to fully support these efforts and to play its full part in their implementation. Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Kazim Garibabadi says Iran and Oman are the only 2 countries that have a right to exercise sovereignty in the Strait of Hormuz. In comments carried by Iran's IRIB broadcaster, Garibabadi said Iran has implemented a new process for controlling traffic and navigation in the waterway, but arrangements are coordinated with Oman. He said Iran has urged Oman to not give in to threats from the US after Trump threatened to blow up the country if it does not behave just like everybody else with respect to the strait.
Sri Lanka has successfully met a critical economic reform benchmark under its International Monetary Fund program, with authorities restoring cost recovery pricing for both electricity and fuel.
Now, IMF Mission Chief to Sri Lanka, Evan Papajojo, speaking exclusively to Newsfirst Zulfiq Farzan, confirmed that the government has fulfilled the required criteria on energy pricing reforms, which is a key pillar of Sri Lanka's extended fund facility program.
Now, recently, the central bank governor said that the cost recovery pricing for electricity has been met. Now, does the IMF agree with the assessment on this criteria, and are current pricing mechanisms fully in line with the program targets and parameters?
So yes, let me just answer the first part of the question directly. Yes, cost recovery has been met. Let me just say that restoring cost recovery pricing both for fuel and electricity, these are 2 separate elements is a core commitment under the EFF program, and the authorities are fully committed to that. Yes, we can confirm that the required adjustments have been implemented, and that was one of the preconditions for us to go to our executive board earlier this week. Earlier this year, the rising global commodity prices, oil prices in particular, and other shocks have delayed some price adjustments, and this temporarily created a subsidy gap in fuel and electricity tariffs. The authorities have ameliorated those in May. Earlier this month, the prior action, as a result of the prior action, for the combined fifth and sixth review, the fuel prices were raised to align with market prices, with market costs. And there was a second electricity tariff increase of about 11% on average that should satisfy the second prior action. So these measures together have brought back both fuel and electricity tariffs back to in line with cost recovery levels. So now moving forward on the second part of your question, the government has committed to fully maintain transparent, cost-reflective pricing mechanisms for energy, utilities, for electricity, and for fuel. This includes timely adjustment for fuel, for petrol and diesel and everything else, as well as electricity prices to reflect changes in global oil costs and generate sufficient revenue to cover production and import expenses. The current pricing formulas are now being applied as intended, and there is a temporary fuel subsidy that has been introduced since April, and this is meant to cushion the recent fuel price shock. Which is time-bound and budgeted for. And so it's important also to say that ensuring that these energy tariffs remain cost-reflective is critical because they're meant to protect public finances. And of course, we understand there is an impact on that on the population. And for those who are most vulnerable, there are other provisions that are being helped through, like I mentioned, like with the social support and social transfer programs. So we will continue monitoring developments in this way. We agree with the authorities' assessment, and we want to see, and we support, and we want to see more efforts in keeping the pricing mechanisms on track.
Now, the full version of the Newsfirst exclusive interview with IMF Mission Chief for Sri Lanka, Evan Papageorgiou, is available to watch on all Newsfirst social media platforms. The Sirasa Sirasa Vesak zone, a major spiritual attraction revered by thousands of Buddhist devotees, was filled to capacity last night as hundreds of thousands gathered to pay homage during the Vesak celebrations. Centered around the historic Rangiri Dambulla sacred premises, the Sirasa Namami Vesak zone, which brought spiritual solace to countless devotees, concluded its sacred Sarvani relic veneration ceremonies last night. The Vesak zone, however, continues to remain open to the public today, allowing further opportunities for worship and spiritual reflection.
Marking the sacred Vesak festival, commemorating the birth, enlightenment and passing away of the Buddha, the Sirasa Namami Vesak zone stood out as one of the most remarkable Vesak celebrations on the island. Devotees from across Sri Lanka flocked to the site throughout the night to offer prayers and to engage in religious observances. A large number of devotees visited the site to venerate the sacred relics, including the Sarvanya relics, which were ceremonially brought from the Sri Vijaya Sundararama Rajamahaviharya in Dambadeniya for public veneration. These included the sacred relics of the Buddha, such as the Angara relics, the sacred hair relics or Keshadhatu, bone relics, as well as relics associated with the chief disciples Sariputta and Moggallana. The revered relics of great arahats were also placed at the Rangiri Dambulla Rajamahaviharya for public homage.
සිරසට ගොඩක් ස්තුති කරනවා. මොකද අපිට මේ නොලැබුණු අවස්ථාවක්.
පළවෙනි වතාවට තමයි ධාතුන් වහන්සේලා වැඳ පුදාගත්තේ. ඉතින් මට හරිම සතුටුයි.
අපි නැත්තම් කොළඹට යන්න ඕනි බලන්න. ඇත්තටම සතුටුයි අපිට මේ ළඟටම ඇවිල්ලා දැක බලා ගන්න පුළුවන් වෙච්ච එක ගැන.
One of the standout attractions of the Vesak zone was the beautifully illuminated pandal depicting the story of Venerable Ananda Thera, which remained open for public viewing throughout the night. To support the large number of devotees, a grand almsgiving or a rice dansala was organized, providing meals for the thousands who attended. In addition to this main almsgiving, numerous other dansals operated throughout the night, offering refreshments and food for visiting worshippers. The Dambulla Municipal Council, along with the 53rd Division of the Sri Lanka Army and several other organizations, partnered with Sirasa to facilitate the successful implementation of the Vesak zone.
අපි චූටි කාලේ උනත් අහලා තියෙන්නේ කොළඹ තමයි වෙසක් තියෙන්නේ. අපිට වෙසක් බලන්න ඕනි නම් කොළඹ යන්න ඕනි. මේ තරම් ලොකු දෙයක් අර තියෙන එකපාරටම දැක්කම ගොඩාක් සතුටුයි.
Adding to the spiritual atmosphere, the Rangiri Dambulla Siriya devotional song evening was also held last night, creating a serene and devotional environment for all attendees. The Vesak zone was further enhanced by a stunning display of Vesak lanterns illuminating the sacred area in vibrant colors, while a puppet show provided an additional cultural and religious experience for visitors. To ensure the safety and well-being of devotees, a special medical unit was established at the Rangiri Dambulla sacred site with the support of the Dambulla district hospital staff, ready to provide emergency treatment if required. Even until midnight, hundreds of thousands of devotees continued to visit and worship at the Sirasa Namami Vesak zone.
මේ වෙසක් පුර පසළොස්වක පොය දිනේ බෞද්ධ හදවත් මිනිසුන්ට හදවත් වලට දැනෙන්නම මම හිතන්නේ මේ සියලු කටයුතු සංවිධානය කරලා තියෙන සිරස මාධ්‍ය ජාලය.
The ultimate stage, built to ignite the talents of our nation's children. The open-air stage at Galnava Kattaragama Primary School is now officially open. To dance, to sing, to play music. Children, this stage belongs to you. Gamadha, for the people, by the people.
The People's Joint Opposition convened a media briefing today under the leadership of its convener, Professor Gia Pires.
However, the Samagijana Balabegya, which also holds the position of opposition leader within the parliament, did not participate in these opposition activities.
The People's Joint Opposition's media briefing was attended by several key political figures, including United Republic Front leader Partli Champika Ranawaka, Dr. Rajitha Senaratne representing the United National Party, Sri Lanka Freedom Party General Secretary Tuminda Disanayaka and Sarvajana Balaya representative Gobi Loganathan, among others.
A massive amount of public funds in this country has been squandered due to large-scale fraud, corruption and negligence. It is not only the war, it is this daylight robbery of public money that has pushed our country into this unprecedented economic crisis. Even now, there is no genuine effort by the government to put an end to these corrupt practices. Instead, the policy of the government appears to be creating further opportunities for its associates to accumulate wealth.
In the past, Sri Lanka has managed even more severe crises. But with these acts of incompetence, inefficiency and arrogance, the country cannot move forward. The nation is once again heading towards decline as the old, corrupt and exploitative class has regained control of the country.
Today, farmers in this country do not have the money to buy fertilizer. There is no fertilizer available, even at high prices. With the recent increase in fuel prices, farmers are now questioning how they are going to cultivate their fields or purchase the agrochemicals they need.
Is Sajid Premadasa acceptable for leadership of the opposition? This question was raised by Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna Anuradhapura district leader Tissa Kuttiarachchi.
We have the utmost respect from the bottom of our hearts for President Ranasinghe Premadasa. He was a leader who served this country and contributed greatly to the nation and the Buddha Sasana. The entire country reflects on this. Please do not misunderstand my words. People often question whether Sajid Premadasa is truly the son of President Ranasinghe Premadasa because not even a fraction of Ranasinghe Premadasa's vision and programs can be seen in Sajid Premadasa. Therefore, there is no need for us to say much more. When we look at the actions carried out by Sajid Premadasa, I have consistently said that while he may have the physical presence, he is not someone who possesses the level of intellect required for big thinking. He still believes that building small houses and distributing benefits like 10,000 rupee Samruddhi-style payments can develop this country. What we need is not a small thinking leader, but a leader who can think big. It is not enough to claim to be a friend of the poor. What we need is a leader who has plans and a vision to eliminate poverty and guide the country towards prosperity.
දුප්පත්කම තුරන් වෙලා පොහොසත් භාවයට යන මාර්ගය ගැන කතා කරන්න පුළුවන් සැලසුම් තියෙන නායකයෙක් තමයි අපිට ඕනේ.
The following is a response from Samagi Jana Balawegaya Working Committee member Dr. Chamal Sanjeeva to groups aligning under the banner of the opposition.
To be very clear, the Samagi Jana Balawegaya leadership and the party do not take seriously the statements made by political groups that were rejected and driven out by the people of this country through protests and public struggle. Because if you consider the period since 2015, every member of parliament and minister within the Samagi Jana Balawegaya are individuals against whom no allegations have been proven in a court of law or any other credible forum. Therefore, I believe we are not required to respond to such statements. In any upcoming election, whether it is a provincial council election or any future national election, the public mandate received by the Samagi Jana Balawegaya-led alliance will provide the necessary answer to those former politicians.
Distribution of urea fertilizer at the government's concessionary price for the upcoming Yala cultivation season commenced today in Kilinochchi.
Urea fertilizer was distributed today to farmers engaged in Yala Sisa cultivation through the Kilinochchi Agrarian Services Centre.
The first phase of the program is being implemented in line with government directive, with a 50 kilogram bag of urea being provided to farmers at a concessionary price of 10,200 rupees for farmers' first phase fertilizer requirement. This fertilizer is being provided on the basis of 41 rupees per acre. We request farmers to obtain this fertilizer and use it for cultivation within the specified time period and carry out their cultivation activities in a better way.
வெளியில தற்சமயம் வரைக்கும் வெளியில பத்தலை இல்லாம பத்தலை இருந்தாலும் 17,500 ரூபாய் 18,000 ரூபாய் விற்குது. இப்போ எங்களுக்கு கமநல சேவை நிலையத்தால ஒரு ஆளுக்கு 10,200 ரூபாய் பத்தலையை வழங்குறாங்க. இது எங்களுக்கு ஒரு மிகப்பெரிய உதவியா. வெளியில 17 போகுது. நாங்கள் அரசாங்கம் மானியமா 10,200 ரூபாய் கொடுக்கிறோம். எங்களுக்கு பிரயோசனம். நாங்கள் அரசாங்கம் மானியமா 10,200 ரூபாய் கொடுக்கிறோம். எங்களுக்கு பிரயோசனம். அரசாங்கம்.
Today marks 45 years since the burning of the Jaffna Public Library, once celebrated as the treasure house of knowledge of South Asia.
The following is a recollection of one of the most painful episodes in Sri Lanka's history.
Only those with an enduring love for reading can truly sense the lingering smell of the ashes of the books that were burnt in the majestic Jaffna Library. The story of how a beacon of knowledge that dispelled the darkness of ignorance was itself plunged into darkness on a day like this continues to evoke profound sorrow. It is difficult to put into words the tragedy of how one of South Asia's greatest repositories of knowledge, something that could neither be stolen nor looted, was destroyed by flames. The seeds of learning were planted in 1933 by scholars devoted to education and knowledge. In time, those seeds grew into a mighty tree that stood tall as the Jaffna Library, illuminating minds and dispelling ignorance. Housing ancient palm leaf manuscripts, newspapers published in Jaffna during the 1800s, and invaluable historical documents, the library became a proud symbol of the intellectual and cultural identity of the Tamil people. Yet forces that sought to erase that identity took the form of fire and engulfed the library in flames, marking a crime that can never be forgiven. On the night of the 31st of May 1981, flames began to consume South Asia's renowned storehouse of knowledge. At the time of the attack, the library contained approximately 57,000 books in the lending section, 8,995 books in the children's section, and 29,500 rare reference volumes in the reference section. All of these were destroyed and reduced to ashes, a loss that remains deeply painful. Even though more than 97,000 books were destroyed by the fire, the library has risen from the ashes in magnificent form, a true rebirth after destruction. Many years have passed since then. Time, which heals wounds, has transformed the appearance of the library. Today, the Jaffna Public Library once again stands majestically as a grand institution, housing approximately 500,000 books and equipped with many modern facilities, and continues to satisfy the intellectual thirst of its readers. Meanwhile, Sri Lankan President Anura Kumara Dissanayake allocated funding for the further development of the Jaffna Library through the national budget. A proposal was made to allocate 100 million rupees for the library's development projects. To mark the 45th anniversary of the destruction of the library, a memorial event was organized today at the Jaffna Public Library. Tributes were paid to Kanagasabe Mudaliyatambi Chellappa, who played a key role in establishing the library, and Reverend Father H.S. David, who reportedly died after learning of the library's destruction. Today's event was attended by the Deputy Mayor of Jaffna, the Municipal Commissioner, the Chief Librarian, library staff, readers, and many members of the general public.
Sri Lanka will designate 5 forests in the Anuradhapura district as protected reserves on the 5th of June, with the primary aim of safeguarding vital ecosystems, including the Elangava Cascade system. The initiative is being implemented under the National Vanaspati program, which will also see the opening of 3 designated elephant corridors.
In line with World Environment Day on the 5th of June, the government plans to officially gazette several forest areas as protected reserves under the National Vanaspati program. The forest lands expected to be declared as reserves include the Ritigala Forest Reserve, Aliyavatunuvava Reserve, Bulagala Reserve, Konkatiava Reserve, and the Kallankiya Reserve. The total extent of these 5 reserves is 2,169 hectares. The primary objective of declaring these reserves is to protect the Vavar Cascade system, also known as the Ellanga system, in the Anuradhapura district, while managing human-elephant conflict and conserving biodiversity.
The main objectives of declaring these areas as protected reserves are to manage the human-elephant conflict, conserve biodiversity, and protect ecosystems, including the Ellanga system. In the Ritigala region, a significant number of elephants move in search of food, particularly towards Palugas Vavar, Bellankadavila, and several smaller vavars located in the upper areas. This forest can also be identified as a major water catchment that supplies these vavars. Therefore, the primary basis for conserving Ritigala as a protected reserve is to manage the human-elephant conflict while also safeguarding water and food resources for the wildlife. Through this initiative, the government is taking steps to protect these forests as part of its contribution to conservation.
The Court of Appeal today ordered that a petition filed by former Minister Nalin Fernando, who is currently serving a prison sentence, be taken up for hearing on the 17th of June. The petition has been filed seeking the dismissal of the indictment submitted against him in connection with the controversial Karam Board case. The matter was taken up before a bench of Court of Appeal judges P. Kumari Ratnam and Pradeep Hettiarachi earlier today.
The case relates to allegations that during the 2015 2015 presidential election period, 14,000 carom boards and 11,000 draught boards were imported and distributed through the Satosa network to political officers of former President Mahinda Rajapaksa, causing a loss of 39 million rupees to the government. Based on these allegations, the Attorney General had filed indictments against Nalin Fernando under the Public Property Act before the Colombo High Court. Appearing on behalf of the defendant, President's counsel Ali Sabri argued that despite this conviction, the Attorney General had initiated fresh legal proceedings on the same set of allegations, which he stated was contrary to the law, emphasizing that filing two cases for the same offence violates legal principles. Accordingly, through this petition, the defence is seeking a ruling declaring that the charges filed by the Attorney General are unlawful. After considering the submissions, the Court of Appeal bench ordered that the petition be called on the 17th of June to confirm facts and proceed further.
Senior journalist Ranjit Ferdinand passed away in the early hours of today, marking the end of a long and distinguished career in Sri Lanka's media industry. He was 78 years old at the time of his passing.
Senior journalist Ranjit Ferdinand began his professional journey as a technical officer at the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation, where he developed his foundation in media and broadcasting. His transition into journalism came in 1994 when he joined Sirasa FM at its inception as the Negombo regional correspondent, marking the beginning of his career in news reporting. He holds the distinction of being the first regional journalist from the Gampaha district to join the Sirasa Media Network. Affectionately known as Sirasa Ranji, Ferdinand earned widespread respect and admiration among colleagues and audiences alike. Over the years, he became a prominent figure within the Newsfirst network, notably serving as an airport correspondent, where he contributed significantly to breaking news coverage and field reporting. Throughout his career, Ferdinand was recognized on multiple occasions for his service and contributions to journalism. His remains will be placed at a private funeral parlour located at Wiskal Junction in Negombo later today. Final rites are scheduled to take place tomorrow at 4 p.m. at the Manyokahena Public Cemetery in Negombo.
Weather first. The Department of Meteorology says rainfall is likely to increase in the southwestern parts of the island from tomorrow evening.
For more on this and the latest weather updates, we once again cross over to Onelka Amarathunga.
Yes, thank you, Stevin and Therini. The Department of Meteorology says that rainy conditions are expected to enhance in the southwestern parts of the island from tomorrow evening. Showers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamu and northwestern provinces, as well as in the Galle, Mathura, Kandy and Nuwara districts. Fairly heavy falls, about 75 millimeters, are likely at some places in these areas. Showers or thunder showers may occur at a few places in the Uvu province as well as in the Ampara and Batiklo districts after 1 p.m. Fairly strong winds, about 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, can be expected at times over western slopes of the central hills in the northern, north central and northwestern provinces as well as in the southern province and then Trincomalee district. The general public is kindly requested to take adequate precautions to minimize and damage caused by the temporarily localized strong winds and lightning during thunder showers.
Weather first. And with that, we wrap up Primetime News for tonight.
Thank you for joining us. Good night.